Hi everyone, welcome back to RTS and welcome back to another Record the Story. Yes, and so welcome back to part 2 of what we started yesterday. And so I'll talk about that in just a minute. Now you may hear my hubby mowing in the background, but that's okay. When I get a chance to scrap, I don't care what's going on around me. I'm going to sit and scrap. Yes, can I get an amen? Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. I don't care who's doing what. I want to sit and scrap, and that's, I had it marked in my planner, and so that's what I'm going to do, okay? I try not to let anybody deter me from my happy time, my crafty time, yes, okay? So yesterday's video, I showed a page kit, and you saw what was in that page kit, which was basically 2 pieces of 12 by 12 paper and a scrap. And so I had leftovers from yesterday's layout, and I wanted to show that when I am making page kits, I have no photos in mind, I have no photos in hand, and I pay no attention as to whether it will be a 1-page or a 2-page. I just put pretty papers together, okay? And so now with this color combination, this was a little different for me, but I really liked how yesterday's page turned out as far as color in the story and that type of thing. And so I wanted to show when you have leftovers in hand and you have supplies to your left, supplies to your right, keep on going, okay? Because just because you made a page kit and you made a page, that doesn't mean you have to stop, okay? Now with the layout I'm going to do today, it won't be side by side in my 2018 album, and even if it did, that wouldn't worry me, because sometimes as scrapbookers and crafters, we stress about things that a lot of people don't even notice. It's not even on their radar to notice. So that's what I'm going to do. And so this is the scraps I have left over, this piece of floral and these 3x4 cards and this vellum. Now in yesterday's layout, I did show that I had to go to my inventory, my stash, my collection, and pull a sheet of vellum. And when I build page kits, I keep that in mind too. It doesn't matter. I don't have to have everything in the kitchen sink when I'm making a page kit, because you can always pull as you sit to scrap. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. Trying to cover up that foil, I went and pulled a piece of vellum, and so I'm just gonna keep bringing that forward. And this is my little blue scraps. I'll see if I can make anything with that. And so here is my photo for my layout. And then of course I have all these embellishments. I haven't pulled anything. I'm just using what was already on my desk from yesterday. And I have these tags and doilies and buttons or brads and the die cuts. Yes. And then I'm going to use the exact same fonts and in alphas that I had yesterday. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And so I wanted to show that, because just because you use the page kit and that page is done, who's to say you can't use what's left over for another page? Yes, stretch it one more time. Because that was a question I got when I was making page kits. Do you have a 1-page layout in mind or 2? I have nothing in mind. I'm just playing with pretty papers. And so this is what I wanted to show. Now, what do I have for a sketch? Well, yesterday I had this sketch sheet from Page Maps. I'll have that link below. And this was back in 2010. So I may look at this and see if I get an inspiration, or this is what happens for me. I have scraps that's in a certain size. I may just use my scraps in a certain size and let that be a determining factor how my sketch and my page design will turn out. Okay, so that is simply what I'm going to do today. I'm going to do part 2 of this page kit. And also, yesterday's prompt had to do about technology, and it was a prompt I got from the Load event, and so I'm going to continue again with that same prompt. So just because Load was over in August doesn't mean I can't keep playing with it, and it doesn't mean I can't use that prompt twice 2 days in a row. Yes, so that's what we're going to do. So come back and I will have a finished page using these leftovers, and then we'll talk about the difference between the 2 layouts that I used from the same page kit. Okay, come back. Okay, I'm back with my finished page, and honestly did not take very long because everything I needed was already here. I didn't have to cut anything. I didn't have to use any tools. Nothing. Everything was here. So very, very happy with that, because I even used some leftovers that I had cut from my last layout using that Tim Holtz tab die. So what did I do? Well, I took that floral piece of paper, used it as it was, and just used it in a horizontal band, and then also with those 2 strips of vellum. If you can see, that's exactly what I did. I just left them in their size and layered them. Even got in some paper tearing, and I'll talk about that just in a minute. And then with my header here, I just took those 3x4 squares, actually cut them up. because I wanted to use them to my benefit. And I'm sorry, I'm probably getting a glare with all that gold, because I wanted to use the sentiments that were on these 3x4 cards that best described how I was feeling at the time. And so of course I used Best Day Ever because I was on my way to see my little one, and then Favorite Things, you know, in the country type of thing. You and Me, I was with my husband, so it was just him and I. And so all three of those was representative and part of my day. And so I purposely picked those, and I purposely only used 3 cards with text. So if you see, this one is blank because this gives me an odd number of those cards that have text, if that makes sense. And so I purposely, when I use things like that, I purposely make sure it has to do with my story, it has some type of connection, and then also too, if I can get some type of design concept in there, I try to do that. When I'm very, you know, I try to be selective when I pick my embellishments. And so up here I used those 2 leftover pieces from my last layout with that tab die. And then if you notice, I did some distressing here, and I'll tell you why. Because it's an old trick. Whenever you have anything on your layout, and I'm sorry about the glare, when you have anything on your layout that is crooked or seems crooked, distress it, because then it will be crooked and you don't have to worry about it if it truly is crooked. So if something's crooked or seems a little off, distress it, and then that's how you get away with that. And so then when I had this distressing up here, I made sure down here with my journaling block where my journaling is going to go, this very bottom edge has a little bit of distressing to tie in with that. And then over here on this blank 3x4 card, I went ahead and did a little grouping of embellishment cluster with elements I had left over. And then on my last 3x4 card, I had an ampersand. And so on my mini alphas, where are they? Right here. I had 2 of those, and so I thought, why not make a visual triangle of those ampersands and get this color blue over there as well. So you can see my color blue is in a visual triangle, and then also too my ampersands make a visual triangle. So love doing that. And then down here with this main cluster, that's also part of my title, and my title's unplugged, and I'll talk about that in just a minute. I used all of these elements that were already left out, either from the last page or from my page kit itself. And then with this gold flower to bring in this gold down here, I took one of these 3x4 cards and I just cut the flower from it. So I used those 3x4 cards in various ways. I matted my photo. I added 2 photo corners, and of course got my title in here. So let's talk about a couple things, okay? Because you know, I always have something to say. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but oh well. So I wanted to say, when it comes to photo corners, and that's just something I've used for a long time. And I honestly, I was thinking about that the other day. I think that influence came from Jen Gallagher back in the 2-piece days. Yeah, I'm talking a long time ago, but I've just fell in love with them, and I've just used them ever since. So with this photo and this mat, I had already adhered that down, and then I thought, oh, I had 2 photo corners left, and I thought I could use them on there. But then when the edges of my mat is down, how do you do that? So I want to show you a little trick that I do. And so if you see this photo corner, I'll just take it off of here. Well, you have all this extra tab. And so if you've already had something glued down, but yet you still want to add a photo corner, just lift up the corner a little bit and then take some of your scissors and cut that away, because all that is a backer, and then you can get that on. Even if you adhere something down, you can still get it on there. So I do that many times because I kind of add them at the last minute. That's kind of like a finishing touch for me, is photo corners. So I wanted to show that. I cut a lot of that tab off. In this case, I had already had it glued down, so I didn't want to tear too much. So I just lifted it up a little bit and got that photo corner on there. And of course, with the butterfly, added some foam tape. And then with these little bits and bobs of these gold circles, I didn't have to get out anything. You know what I used? I used those bits and bobs from those gold alphas. So not only did I use that on the last layout, I used both of those alphas on this layout, but it's in a different manner. Okay, so let's talk about paper tearing for a minute. Oh, and this is what I have left over. This is what I have left over. And this is the 3x4 cards. Okay, and I even had these little pieces here, and I was going to try to put them up here and put them for tabs, but I just didn't like that look, so I scrapped that. I just left that plain. So that's what I have. I used all that floral paper. I have some of these left over, and this is what I had pulled, and that's just a little bit I have left over. So I would just put those in my gold color box. That's what I'll do with that, and I'll keep that. Okay, so, oh, and this is the embellishments I have left over. So still have some. I even have a tag left over. So this is what I have left over, and I'll just put those away. Back in the blue, back in my white. Okay, so yes, I used page kits for 2 layouts. So let's talk about paper tearing for a minute, and then we're going to compare both of these photos. So with paper tearing, I did some paper tearing down here with my vellum because I wanted to give a little bit of a distressed look there. And I can definitely run my fingernail across there to raise that up a tad if I wish to, which I probably will here. And then you can see how that'll lift up a little bit. And so now how do I adhere vellum? Okay, for me, I have never found any product that says it works for vellum to work for vellum. Never, never. In 23 years of scrapbooking, you know, there's vellum tape and vellum square. None of that has worked for me. So what I do is I only use adhesive on vellum that doesn't show. Okay, so I plan where my vellum's going to be, and so like I knew my vellum was going to be under here, so I added adhesive underneath this, and then it's also underneath this blue. So, and then also too, what I'll do is I will flip over if my vellum has a design, and I will go ahead and I will put glue in the middle of whatever my design is, not the vellum, whatever the design is. So in this case, it's gold hearts. So I would come over on the back, and that's what I did here at the very bottom, is that I took some of my Scotch Quick Dry, and I have a fine line applicator, and I'll have that linked below, and I just put a dot in behind those little gold hearts, and that's how I adhere vellum. I don't use any special product. I just use my quick dry. That's what I use, and my fine line. And like I said, I'll have that link below. And this is now what it looks like. It's tacky glue. Okay, so I don't use any special vellum product. I just use quick dry and only put adhesive where something's going to go on top of it. That's how I adhere. And sometimes you can use staples, but I didn't have staples on this page. Okay, so let's talk about paper tearing. Let's see, what did I do? Okay, I have a little bit of thing here, because I do have some new scrapbookers on this channel, and I want to talk about something when it comes to paper tearing. Now, there is no science to paper tearing. It is what it is. But you have to remember basically one thing. You're going to have to figure out where do you want your tear and how your tear is going to look. Now, if I'm left-handed, for me, I'm going to tear with my left and hold with my right in such a manner like this. Okay? So you see that the right hand piece that I'm holding, that's in my right hand, that's where the tear is. Okay, that's the tearing effect that I want, if you can see it, okay, on this piece of paper. That's the effect I want, and it was in my right hand, even though I'm left-handed. So you have to remember, if you're right-handed, you're going to, of course, use your right hand to tear, but then whatever's in your left hand, that's going to be the tear piece. Now, why does that matter? What matters is when you're tearing something that has a directional or wording, because you don't want to tear on the opposite end. So I'm left-handed, and on this piece of paper, say if I wanted to come under number 8 on Wednesday, and that's where I wanted my tear to be. So of course I'm going to have to flip it, and I have to remember that my tear, okay, I'm left-handed, so that's where my tear is. But now if you were right-handed, you know what you would have to do. Say if you wanted tearing underneath this 6, you're going to have to make sure you flip your paper in such a way, because you're going to be tearing towards you, okay? So you see there is a difference. If you're left or right-handed, you do have to pay attention as to how you're holding your paper when it has wording. Now, when it's just something like this, it doesn't matter, okay? But now right-handed, this is what I'm going to have to do. You see what I'm saying? Okay, if you're right-handed, your tears are going to look like this. So you have to make sure your paper is going in the right direction. Okay, now lefties, we already know that because everything in our life is upside down. Okay, so it's not difficult. You just have to pay attention as to where your tear is going to be when you do your tearing. That's the only thing you have to pay attention, because it is different for left-handed people versus right-handed people. Now also too, you have to remember that some paper is going to give you a different core look. And what do I mean by a core look? What do I mean by a core look is the inside of your paper. So what is this color is on top of white paper. Now how would you know what the inside of your core is going to look like? One simple trick. Flip over your paper, that's what your inner core is going to be. Okay, I flip this brown over, it's brown on the back. So that means when I do my paper tearing here on this brown, okay, there's my brown There's my brown inner core, and there's my white inner core. Okay, you see the difference? So if you want to know what your inner core is going to look like, now back, I'm talking old school here. We used to want to know what our inner core paper was going to look like because we did chalking. And nowadays people do inking instead of chalking. But I was just thinking the other day about breaking out my chalks, so maybe I'll do that. Okay, so if you want to know, if you want to do some inking and you want to know what kind of ink what color ink you're going to need, you're going to have to pay attention to what your inner core is going to be. This is going to be white, and this is going to be brown. And of course, when I tear this black, the back is black. So of course, my inner core is going to be black. Okay, now, when I was doing paper tearing back years ago, and I like the look of paper tearing, but I would mess up so many papers, okay? And back in the day, I didn't have a lot of paper like I do now. So a quick way to do paper tearing in a controlled manner is to use a roller and then just tear slow, okay? And that'll give you a more controlled look, but you still get paper tearing. Okay, you still get that teared look. Now, if you want to get a bigger core look, you would simply go slower. Okay, now I'm left-handed, so you're going to have to flip it for yourself. And then you can take your paper slow and then go back and forth with paper. See how I'm taking my paper back and forth? And that's how you get that bigger core showing. Okay, is just take it slow and then maneuver your paper a little bit. Okay, so that was just a little quick thing I wanted to say about paper tearing, because it's not hard, it's just paper tearing. But sometimes when you pay $1 for a piece of paper and you're doing paper tearing, you want to make sure you get your direction right before you start tearing. And when I first started tearing years ago, I would have to try with a piece of scrap paper first so I knew where my tear was going to be. Okay, especially if you're dealing with different colors of inner cores. And I tell you what, isn't this a pretty color scheme? This chocolate brown, or Hershey bar brown, and that teal there. Boy, that's really pretty. I like that. Okay, I love seeing different color combinations. Oh, and so then also too, different papers tear at different, different papers tear differently. Okay, so with vellum, let's tear this. Okay. And I have my shiny gold to me, and so I'm bringing that. And you see how that tear is completely different than that tear, which is completely different than that tear. Okay, so different papers give you a different tear. And also too, just flip it over and then you'll know what your core is going to look like. Okay, that's what I wanted to say about paper tearing. Yes, okay. So now let's talk about with that page kit, which I started with 2 pieces of 12x12, added a cardstock, and then added a piece of vellum. So on my other page, that's what I did too. I added a piece of cardstock. So when I created that page kit, I did not know what I was going to end up doing, and now I ended up doing 2 pages, which this could have been easily a double spread layout if you wanted it to be. But I had one page layouts, and so this was the first one. And I probably can't get them both in. And this is my second one. Now, these are both going to go in my 2018 album, but they're not going to be side by side. But I will tell you, I like this design better because I'm a horizontal gal. Okay, I like my designs going this way. This is a vertical design. But you see how that page kit, that's what I created with that page kit. So there you can get a visual as the ending result, because I know a lot of you watched that page kit video and you saw me put them together. Well, there's the result. Okay, most of those embellishments that was already in that little baggie with the page kit. So I know that is a big hurdle for people to get over when you're making page kits. When you're first starting, you're thinking, I can't start it. I don't have any photos. How do I know where to start? Just start with some pretty papers. You always find something to scrapbook with. Always. Okay. And that because we do a variety of topics, we use a variety of colors in our life, and so it always works out. So that is what I wanted to show. Both of those layouts came from that page kit. Okay, and so when you're making page kits, don't let that be a concern. Throw that out the window. Yes, throw it out like a dishpan of water. Just throw it out. It doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about that, because when I made that page kit together, I had no idea I was going to be doing photos that had to do with technology. And then I also didn't know that I was going to be doing something with an Amish buggy. Okay, so I wanted to say that with this prompt, you know, it was about technology. And so just the other week, my husband and I was doing some traveling, and we got behind an Amish buggy, and it was like just for about a half a mile. There was no one else around. It was us behind this dad and his daughter in this Amish buggy, and there was quiet. It was beautiful. It was peaceful. And the word unplugged just came into my mind when I was looking at that scene, you know, when I was behind this Amish buggy. And so I got out my phone and snapped it real quick. And then after I took it and I came home and I was showing my husband, and I said, look at the difference, because in my mind the word unplugged kept popping up. And then in the photo you can see where these electric poles or light poles, whatever you want to call them, you know, technology. Look how they intersect. And I took that metaphorically because here we were behind in our vehicle, and here he was in front of us with a horse and buggy, and it was like two worlds intersected at that point. So I thought it was a very poignant photo taken at a very poignant, quiet day, and then I paired it with the load prompt of technology, because the word unplugged and, you know, the difference in technology for people in the Amish culture versus us. So that's how I took the prompt, and my journaling will reflect what I just said there. So I just love making connections like that. So okay, so that is all I have for this part 2 of this page kit and start to finish little 2-part thing. Now I want to say that let's see, on Thursday there will be a little tutorial, and then it's going to be the beginning of a 3-part series for World Card Making Day. So come back for that. A little bit of fun, and maybe a little bit of a giveaway. Okay, so come back to RTS, because you never know what we're going to learn. Bye.